And hello, friends and car lovers. Welcome to the CNC Auto Show. I am Aaron Clements.
And I'm John Ryan.
And we are both here to give you information on ways to make your car, truck, or SUV safer, to make it more dependable, and to make it last longer for less money and less hassle. And our team would also like to say thank you to all of you that ride with us on the CNC Auto Show. We really do appreciate you allowing us to be a part of your weekend. It really means a lot to our team. And we are here to take your phone calls. And that number is 706-863-5800. That's on Saturday mornings, 8:05 to 10. You can catch us live on iHeartRadio, WGAC 95.1, and on air if it's in your area. And also, if you want to watch us live, you can do that on Facebook. That's at the CNC Auto Show. And we invite you to give us a call. We got a fantastic, fun show going on, and it has to do with best cars made.
Right.
So we have been talking about some of the best cars, and also if you know of a best car that you can think of should be in that category, give us a call. And we also always like to mention that if you're looking for a good, dependable auto repair facility, go to NapaAutoCare.com. That's whether you're out of town or in town, having an emergency, or just want to build a relationship with a good shop. That's NapaAutoCare.com. Do that little search in the top right-hand corner, and you'll find a shop that is just right for you. And John Ryan, are we ready to go to the phones?
Yeah, let's go over to Paul here.
Paul, welcome to the CNC Auto Show. And what can we help with today?
I've got a 98 Dodge Ram with a 5.2 V8 in it, and about once a month, sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's hot, the idle, under acceleration, and at idle, will just go wacky and go crazy, and it'll do it for 15 to 30 seconds, and then it won't do it again for another month.
Paul, describe the problem a little bit more. Like, say you're at idle, what exactly is it doing? Just fluctuating, going up and down? Does it stall or what?
Yeah, it goes up and down, jumps all around. It sounds like sometimes it sounds like it's going to shut off, and then it'll jump up to 12 or 1,500 RPMs. And then when I'm driving down the road, power will go in and out as the idle fluctuates.
Okay. Any check engine light codes or anything like that?
No check engine light code.
No check engine light. The first thing that came to mind was the idle speed motor, but then you also said it goes down going down the road. So idle speed, of course, is just that. It only kind of operates at idle. Now, no doubt it operates going down the road, but it doesn't typically cause any drivability issues. So one thing that's pretty common on that particular engine, and even the 360s and all that stuff, was the map sensor. The map sensor could do some pretty weird problems like that if it gets the wrong map reading. But typically that eliminates the check engine light. So that's kind of my first thing that I would be wondering about, if the map sensor is getting the proper readings when it does that. With it doing it so, I guess, intermittently and not being able to, pinpoint exactly when it does it, it would be hard for a technician, to, of course, catch the live data, monitor it with a scan tool. As cheap as that sensor is, and as the failure rate of them, it might be a decent thing to replace. Of course, just knowing that you'd be kind of throwing a part at it just to hope and see if that fixes it. Normally a crank sensor can cause issues like that. But typically it's a very abrupt power loss because it doesn't know when to fire the injectors. So I'm kind of ruling that off. What's your thoughts, Aaron?
I was thinking map sensor also, but I also was thinking a little bit about carbon buildup in the engine is a possibility. But I think that there's a chance that he may be ahead to have some diagnostic tests run on this one.
Right.
I don't think I would, other than making sure that the maintenance tune-up is good. That one, it does not have a fuel filter that you have to change. Make sure all the regular maintenance is done, but after that, and induction service, but after that, I believe I lean toward having some diagnostic tests run if it still has the problem.
Paul, I did just kind of think of a random one. Next time it does it, just kind of glance over at the coolant gauge and make sure it's not going erratic also. That vehicle does depend on the ECT, which is engine coolant temperature, And if it goes really, really cold, sometimes those gauges can even go past, I think they start at 110 or something like that. I forget where they start. Sometimes it can actually go into the negative digits on the scan tool reading. You wouldn't necessarily see it on the gauge, but that's another kind of prone thing that those had. But normally they would, again, set a check engine light. So just next time it does it, just kind of look over at the gauge and make sure it's not going from 210 to 0, 210 to 0, that kind of thing.
Okay, and if it did do that, what would you think it would be?
There's a possibility that coolant temp sensor is so small. It's about as round as a number 2 pencil as far as diameter, and they're notorious for cracking. And of course, if you're losing the good connection there, it could be giving the computer a false reading. A vehicle leans out. I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. If the temperature was a negative number, negative 28, it will pull so much fuel back from those injectors that it will just about shut the car off. So again, that's just kind of a thing.
And sometimes that won't set a check engine light if it's within
because
the
it just thinks
parameters.
the
Now, if it
temperature
went all the
changed.
way to minus 50, then the computer would say that's impossible. But as far as it might think it's in Alaska.
Yeah, or even
and
positive
go
10.
down.
I mean, just anywhere low. So again, of course, your gauge would respond with that sensor not reading properly. So just kind of a tip just to watch out for if it does it again.
The tune-up on the car is very recent, but what would be some options as far as working on the carbon buildup inside the motor? Is that an additive you pour in the gas tank, or
well, actually, when you pour additive in the gas tank, is that additive is just going through the fuel rail and then going straight into the injectors? Now, it does hit the top of the valves, clean the top of the pistons, but it does not clean the intake manifold, throttle body, and a lot of other places where the fuel is. And does not do near the job that an actual induction service does. Induction service goes in, first it goes in through the fuel rail, through the gas, and then it goes, also there's a chemical that's sprayed in through the intake manifold, and with that it cleans the carbon out of the intake manifold, the passageways there, top of the valves, top of the pistons, goes on out to clean the O2 sensor. And we use the BG induction service. There's different ones, but we've had great success with that. Normally increases gas mileage, makes them run a little better too.
Okay, well, I will start with those things, and thank you for all y'all do.
Yeah, of course.
Paul, thank you very much. And the number to call, 706-863-5800. John Ryan, you think we have time for me to do a real quick tech tip quiz?
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone knows that when you win the tech tip quiz, you get a beautiful shirt and a prize package, so I'll skip that part. But here is the question. What are 5 precious metals found on most modern cars, and where are they commonly located? And if someone knows the answer to that, they could give us a call. Ready to go to the next caller?
Yeah, we got about 2 minutes left. Let's see. Let's go over to David.
Hey, David, welcome to the CNC Auto Show, and what can we help with?
Glad to talk to you. I think one of the best vehicles built was a 68 Dodge Dart Slant 6 stick shift.
Oh, I remember the Slant 6. That was a tough engine. You're right.
Oh, 2 1/4, you couldn't beat it. But I also wanted to add, I used y'all's services the other week. I've got a 97 Nissan pickup, little 4-cylinder, 3-legged dog out run it. But it surged and started cutting up. Check engine light come on. Put a throttle sensor on it from a local parts house. Ran great for 2 weeks. Started cutting up. Light came back on. Took it to y'all. And we had to go to the Nissan place for the correct sensor, and it's running great. And your service advisor stayed on top of everything. Called me, let me know where we were at, and I was very, very pleased with y'all's service.
Fantastic. We love that.
Well, you should, because, like I said, it's a great experience, and you don't get that everywhere, even at dealerships.
Fantastic. David, thank you very much for the call and the kind words.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, the number to call, 706-863-5800. If you have a question about your car, truck, or SUV, we do have a tech tip quiz laying on the table. We got Jim and Cliff. We'll be going to them shortly, and we'll be talking about best cars. We'll be right back just after this.
Burn up that quarter. Just to my car now, she really feels looking real tough with chrome reverse.
Welcome back to the CNC Auto Show. We have a tech tip quiz laying on the table, and we are talking about best cars. So if you have a comment about that or a question about your car, truck, or SUV, give us a call back. And number 706-863-5800. Are we ready to go to the calls?
Yeah, I think we are. Let's go over to Cliff.
Hey, Cliff, welcome to the CNC Auto Show. And what can we help you with today?
Hey, good morning, guys. I got a question. Same truck, 2004 F-150 Super Cruise 4x4.
Mm-hmm.
This one is my right side window motor. I guess I'm saying that went out. Can't I just swap the wires around backwards and see if it'll work or make it go up? Wouldn't that tell me if the window motor itself is bad? That's the first one.
Yes, it would, but where would you be swapping the wires? In the door panel itself or at the switch?
Yeah, well, at the door panel, take the door panel, turn the motor off.
You could, no doubt that would tell you. I'm assuming it's stuck down then, if that's what you're wanting to do.
Yeah, about 3/4 down, just before into the hospital downtown.
Oh, no, that's not good, especially with the rain we've had. Yeah, you definitely could. Now, of course, a technician would actually use a tool called, or what most of them would use, it's called a power probe. And it actually is a device that, of course, can apply. It's basically like a fancy test light that can actually apply power and ground at the same time. There's a ground lead off of it. You hook it to the motor and apply power to it. Swapping the wires is definitely something you could do just to test that the motor goes one way. Typically, if it goes up, it will go down as long as the polarity is reversed. And another thing that is kind of more common than the motor, if it went down and won't come back up, would be the switch itself. But don't forget that there's also 10 miles of wire in between that door and the other door. So there's always a possibility of it being a wiring issue. So, yes, to answer your question, you could definitely swap the wires or the polarity of the wires and, see if it goes back up.
And I believe before I swapped them, though, I would just check the voltage there.
Mm-hmm.
Just hook a simple voltmeter in there and push it in the up position. And
See if you get 12.
if you get 12 volts, then all your wiring's good right there. And you should you can switch the wires back around and go down and should get 12 volts. And
well, really, it'll say negative 12 if you go the other way.
Or you can just leave it hooked up and it'll say negative 12 either way. But yeah, check the voltage first, because that way you won't go through the trouble of checking the wires. And you can do it with a very simple voltmeter.
Yeah, inexpensive.
Very inexpensive voltmeter.
Well, I thought it was switch at first, but neither one will work, the driver's side or the passenger side. I kind of figured it wasn't switch. That's the first one. The second one, I'll check that. Thank you. The second one is, it's got a new motor and trans and everything in it. But I noticed on acceleration, and I didn't pick up on this the other day. I was driving a buddy of mine, same year and everything. As soon as I touch his accelerator, the truck would take off, and it's going to be hard for me to describe this. But anyway, so on mine, when I hit the accelerator, it's kind of like, whoa, and you let off, it'd be whoa. But his, as soon as you hit the whoom, you let off, whoom,
So his has got the whoom, and yours has got the ooh, more like that. Hold on, and we're going to let our guest answer that one. 1 second.
I'll tell you what you do. You just take them dang old spark plugs out, and in that little hole, you just put a little oil around there, just like Bobby Hunter says. It's like it go boom, boom, just like that.
That just tickles me so much to hear that.
Cliff, what year range? I know you gonna be all right over there.
I'll be all right.
What year range was the one you drove? Your buddies?
There's a 2004, and I had an older motor and all, but same year, it's a 2004 Super Cruise 4x4.
Okay, I was just curious if you drove one of the newer ones which would be throttled by wire. So basically, what you're saying is his revs up a lot quicker, more responsive, and it comes down faster also.
Yes, sir. As soon as you let off of it, boom, it'll drop.
Right.
Mine kind of like, I ain't gonna do it again. But
yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. It just takes a little bit longer for it to come back down. One of the kind of things that runs across my mind is the IAC, which is idle air control valve. If it gets carbon on it, it does two things. It takes longer to respond, especially when the RPMs are coming back down. That motor, it tends to take a little bit longer to go to what they would call base idle position. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. And then it kind of actually can work in the other way as far as revving up, simply because that idle speed circuit, of course, basically moves because it's not idle anymore. And then last but not least would be the actual mass airflow sensor. If it has any dirt, debris on it, of course, it skews the readings. It'll still run great, but it takes just that much longer because the sensor is reading slower
and a BG induction service would actually take care of all those items at one time.
That's right.
What does that run again? What's that like? What's that run again?
A BG induction service normally runs for the complete procedure, runs around the 160, 165 range. Now, that varies from place to place. Cliff, we're going to run out of time. Did you want to hold, or did we get you squared away?
Y'all were great. I do appreciate it, and y'all have a great weekend.
Cliff, you were great, too. We appreciate it. We'll be right back after this. And welcome back to the CNC Auto Show. And, yes, we were having a Nerf gun fight in here during that time.
Possibly.
Yeah, possibly. And we are ready to go back to the phones. And, John Ryan, who are we going to?
Up next is Jim.
Hey, Jim, welcome to the CNC Auto Show. And what can we help you with?
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. Appreciate that. Enjoy your show.
Absolutely.
Well, we enjoy it also. We're having a great time this morning.
Well, it sounds like it. Listen, I have a 2005 Buick LeSabre. Has a 3800 engine in it. I've got 89,000 miles on it. My oil light comes on from time to time. It doesn't run hot. I got plenty of oil. What could I suspect going on?
Jim, the oil light that you're describing, is that the low oil pressure light, like the little red oil can, or are we talking about
that's correct. That's correct, yeah.
Does it come on at idle or going down the road?
Going down the road.
It does come and go. Okay. That's actually kind of a better scenario, typically, because that kind of tells a technician that most likely it's not mechanically low oil pressure. Normally, if an oil pump had a little bit of wear or a bearing had a wear, typically the oil light comes on at idle and only idle. Because, of course, the engine's turning slower, the oil pump's turning slower. It can't put out as much as it needs. Being that yours is going down the road and the oil light's coming on kind of intermittently, those sensors have been kind of a high failure rate. What happens is, of course, that oil sensor, the oil pressure sensor, is screwed directly into one of the main, I guess, arteries or galleries of the oil pump system. And as oil pushes on that sensor, ideally it's, of course, supposed to be sealed. And what can happen is a little bit of oil go past the sensor side of it and actually get into the connector and the wiring and all that kind of stuff, and can cause some faulty readings. With that being said, typically replacement would be, or the job replacement would be the oil sending unit itself. And then cleaning the wiring and the connector really, really good with normally brake clean, denatured alcohol. Get all the oil off of it, put some dielectric grease in there, and then repair it. Now, if it came on a lot more, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have it diagnosed. The issue with doing that, a diagnostic at this point is, of course, a technician's going to screw a mechanical oil gauge in place where that sensor goes, and most likely find out that it has perfect oil pressure. With the cost of that sensor, I think you'd be just fine to go ahead and replace the sensor, clean it up, and have that one on the road again.
And, Jim, just to confirm now, you're not getting any noises going down the road along with this. The light's on, and you're driving it while the light's on, and it's not making any unusual noise or anything like that.
That's correct. No, not everything runs fine, no noise at all. Where could I get one of those switches?
Of course, Napa has them in stock for that particular vehicle. Now, I will tell you, it does require a special socket. It's kind of an odd-looking socket, but even the socket's inexpensive at Napa. It's definitely something you could do yourself. It's actually located just above the oil filter.
Just above the oil filter?
Mm-hmm. Single wire connector.
Is it kind of easy to access, maybe?
Yeah, it's not bad. With that socket, depending on if they sell you the deep one or the shallow one, you might need a little 3-inch extension and a 3/8 ratchet. The biggest thing is, of course, you don't really want to do it while it's hot, so don't drive that car to Napa. And
right.
And, of course, a little bit of oil is going to come out when you do that. It's not like it's under pressure or anything. Obviously, this is with the car off, because it would be if it was running. And a fairly simple job.
And they will ask you if you have a light or a gauge.
That's right.
And you might even just take a picture of your gauge right before you go, because every now and then somebody asks you, does it a 60 or 80 gauge? And just have your VIN number with you. Matter of fact, that's a chance to tell everybody, encourage them if you work on your own vehicle and you are and you might be needing parts. It's not a bad idea to keep the VIN number of the car with you somewhere. Possibly even just put it in your phone, and then that way, as you're buying parts, if someone says, "Well, what year model, what size engine, or what's that," they can normally decode the VIN number and get all of that information that they need, and it might save you a trip or keep you from getting the wrong part if you do stuff.
I also do that.
Yeah, I'll just take a picture of it and keep it on my phone.
Yep, that's what I do. I actually take a picture of the car and the insurance and store it in my favorites. That way it's easy to get to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There you go. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Great call, Jim. Thank you. The number to call, 706-863-5800. And we will go to
Troy.
Hey, Troy. Welcome to the show, and what can we help you with today?
Hey, guys. Good to hear from you. You guys doing a great job this morning.
We're having a great time.
Yeah, you definitely are. The guy with the Dodge Dart, he had a good point this morning. My dad tells me about his when he was in high school all the time. They tried to blow that car up with this slant six, and then it was just impossible to do.
Yeah.
And but I was going to tell you, for present-day vehicles, as my daily driver back and forth to work with the kids and hauling kids and everything else, I have a 98 4Runner with the unbeatable 3.4 liters, four-wheel drive, 350,000 miles on it. It's never been rebuilt, and the transmission's never been rebuilt. It purrs like a kitten.
Wow,
that's great.
That is great.
Have you done 3 timing belts on it?
The only thing is oil changes, and that's it. I've had to put alternator, starter, water pump, and I did the timing assembly.
Yeah, timing belt.
Yeah, the whole thing comes with the water pump and all that. But, my question for you was going to be, guy mentioned the Mustangs earlier, and I also drive a 2012 Mustang, and I just recently put a 4,000 stall converter in it.
Oh, wow.
And got all the tunes done, got the tunes perfect, data logs, everything, running perfect off the line. But on the highway, if you do passing someone, 55 half throttle pass or even a wide open throttle pass, at say 40 to 55 miles an hour, the car it's like it hits it's almost like a rhythm RPMs where the car stalls. It's like a wah, and then it kicks in. It's like a delayed, and sometimes it'll even sit there for 4 or 5 seconds. All my data logs and everything are dead on, both banks, air, fuel, everything's perfect. But for some reason, from about 40 miles an hour to 55 miles an hour with a half throttle or wide open throttle punch, it wants to do this almost like it has 4,000 RPMs. And yeah, it is, because I cannot see anything, and tuners all over the south these data logs do, and they can't see anything.
Wow. Troy, what RPM is it doing it at, though, physically, like on the tack?
About right at 4,000,
okay,
and that's where the stall is between 38 and 4,000.
Right.
It'll break stall at about 2,500, but just a wide, just if.
Yeah, I would tend to lean I know you send it to different tuners and data logs, and a lot of that stuff, no doubt, of course, can be tuned out, but I do lean towards more of a tuning issue, mainly because that converter is what, of course, you probably know, what they consider a looser converter. That vehicle's obviously throttled by wire. It's looking at a lot of different sensors, a lot of different parameters. And is it, as far as like the tuning, did they tune the transmission also, as far as they looked at the parameters there?
Yeah. The transmission, the shift points, and everything's actually dead. From a dead standstill, everything's dead on. It's perfect.
Okay.
Highway driving, it's got a few hiccups, and now I'm still working. Just trying to work out and send to different tuners, that I know just through word of mouth. But we haven't come up with anything yet. And I've had the stalkers that are in here for, I guess, about a month now.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can suggest there, which you've probably already done this, is just get on the forums, and no doubt that's a pretty common combination in that converter and all that kind of stuff, and see if people have similar issues like that and what they're, how they resolved it. Because I do definitely think it's going to be in tuning, because nothing mechanical is going to do that to cause it to, hit the rev limiter. It's probably, my guess would be it's probably seeing the input speed of the transmission and the RPM and seeing the difference there. Say if you're at 4,000 RPM, the input speed's not what it should be. It could, it could be pulling back power. It could be pulling, the pulse width in the injectors. I mean, it could be doing so many different things, and no doubt, a tuner that could even possibly ride and drive that thing and tune it, you do.
Exactly right. I mean, because there are so many settings.
It's unbelievable, the settings.
And you look at it, and I mean, I look at it, and I mean, it just looks like Chinese to me. And there's a few things that I'm able to,
decipher.
Figure out. But even some guys have been, they do it for a living. I mean, there's just so many settings in there that it's like, well, maybe these guys have heard of the, on-off switch that I can, hit on the, on the tune.
Yeah.
And,
well, of course, in the diesel world, they have a converter lock, and of course, it would lock the converter at that speed. But that, depending on charger and stuff like that, they may or may not want to do that. So, but yeah, I do feel like it could be in the tuner. It's just a matter of finding the tuner that can work that bug out for you.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate it, and keep up the good show, guys.
All right,
thank you, Troy. We appreciate the call. And John Ryan, I was thinking of a couple of cars that I think should go in the best cars category.
All right.
One is a Volkswagen, and remember, we're not talking about the most expensive cars and all that.
Yeah.
Just cars that have been important. But the Beetle Bug was, to me, just a very iconic car. It was a very affordable car. I think the furthest back I remember some of the little Volkswagens running, I remember, now of course I was very small, but I remember seeing them 1995. I think you could get 1995, I believe, for a Volkswagen. Yeah,
wow.
It was just a very inexpensive car at the time, and it gave transportation to a lot of people who didn't otherwise have transportation.
Well, not only that, it also is a platform for so many other vehicles in today's world. Dune buggies, even some of the Porsche stuff, all that kind of stuff.
And I did have a dune buggy. I had a beautiful dune buggy, gold metal flake, dragons on the side. Mag wheels. It was
we won't hold that against you.
It was a lot of fun. Okay, now I'm gonna mention one other one, and that was the minivan. The minivan was just it pretty much saved Chrysler, in my opinion.
It did, yeah.
And it was just a well designed. It was something America needed. Getting the kids back and forth to school. It came along at a great time. And it was just it turned out to be a very good car.
It did.
Okay, and we are going to be taking a break real quick. When we return, we are going to mention the Tech Tip quiz one more time, because and we'll be looking for an answer to that, and we'll be talking about best cars and answering automotive questions. We'll be back just after these messages. Welcome back to the CNC Auto Show, and we are answering automotive questions, talking about some of the best cars that have ever been made, and also we have a Tech Tip quiz laying on the table, and we're going to ask the Tech Tip quiz one more time.
Okay.
And the question is, what are 5 precious metals? Now, there's a lot more than this, but 5 precious metals found in most modern cars, and where are they commonly located?
Since you got 5 on there, can I give one of them?
You can.
All right, this is a tip. I know gold for sure.
Yes. Now, where would gold be located on the car, though?
Well, that's what we mentioned. Of course, we do a lot of airbag work, so we see a lot of gold on the actual terminals to prevent corrosion and stuff like that. Of course, that's a pretty serious system, so you don't want any corrosion on the pins. So gold is definitely one of them. So we'll leave that as a tip.
Yeah, I think that's a good tip, too. Yeah. I don't think it would be worth trying to disassemble any parts of a car to try to get the gold out of there that I know of. Because you do from time to time have people stealing parts of cars. We won't mention what that is yet.
You might have something
in order
there
to get other metals out,
right?
Not the gold. Are we ready to go to the calls?
Yeah, let's go to Billy.
Perfect. Hey, Billy, welcome to the CNC Auto Show. We appreciate your call.
Good morning, guys. I got a Chevy Express van, and the shifting solenoid has gone bad in the transmission.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it has two, one for first, second, third, and overdrive. Is it better to change both of them while you're at it than just change the one that's bad?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Billy, in my opinion. Typically, we replace this on both as a pair, just mainly for that very reason, because, you'd hate to put it all back together a month later, have the same problem on a different solenoid, or, they both have the same age. They've, most likely made the same shifts, all its life.
The Nike effect.
The Nike effect.
Right.
Nike tennis shoe. You got one bad.
Right.
Okay.
You go ahead and change the filter and the fluid and everything while you got the pan dropped off of it too, right?
That's right. That's a good question also. Doing that, you're only replacing, I'd say roughly 50% of the fluid. No doubt it is important to do that because, of course, you've got the pan off, you got the filter staring at you. You may as well replace it. Another step I'd add to that is flush the transmission after that. Because, like I said, you're going to have 50% old fluid, 50% new fluid, and our analogy with that has always been it's like adding, 2 more drops of Dawn to dirty washing or dishwasher. And so, yeah, I would recommend flushing the transmission at the same time. That way the transmission's got 100% new fluid. There's no possibility of that old fluid contaminating the new solenoids.
Very good. There's platinum in the catalytic converter, and there's silver in the electronics. Somebody else can take it from there.
Hold on. You're going too fast. Way too fast, Billy. Let's. Okay, now you mentioned
platinum
silver
in the catalytic converter. Yep, and silver in the electronics.
Okay, now that's 3 because John Ryan mentioned gold.
Yeah.
Right.
And you got silver, and you said platinum.
Right. In the catalytic converter.
Yeah. All we need is 2 more. You got 2 more for me?
There's copper in the wiring.
That's one we didn't have.
Would that be a precious metal?
Oh, okay.
We'll call it
it's
precious.
on the stock market.
Yeah, we'll call it precious, Joe. We'll go with that. All right, that's 4.
Okay. All right, and
Billy?
there's aluminum in the.
No, I think we're pressing
I don't
it
want
with
to hear that
aluminum.
foghorn. I was just throwing that out there.
All right. Billy, I hate to do this. I did. John Ryan did it too.
He said it right the first time he did it.
Thank you, John Ryan.
All right, no problem. Anytime.
Thank you.
Bye.
The number to call, 706-863-5800. If you have answered a detective quiz, a question about your car, or want to chime in on the best cars made, give us a call. And where we're going, John Ryan?
We're going over to Joe.
Hey, Joe, welcome to the CNC Auto Show, and what can we help you with?
Yeah, I want to run this by you guys because I know y'all pretty well up on the automotive stuff.
Well, not really.
I bought a 1995 Bonneville SE 3800 Series 2, and I had the plume go bad, and it burnt the motor. I'm planning on replacing the engine with a remanufactured, but my question is, how reliable is that transmission that come in that car? Do they go out at 100,000 miles or?
Joe, I think that's a great question. That transmission's, gosh, it was in like every vehicle back in that day, and it was a very good transmission. However, with that being said, a lot of them failed at 40,000 miles, and a lot of them failed at 240,000 miles. There were really no common issue. Well, not common issue, but no telling when they were going to tear up. The first thing that you would see was a code that basically transadapt, basically too long. It means it's taking too long to shift, and it would have lazy shifts. Like you would be driving down the road, and it would shift and then grab real hard and then go on down the road. So, do you remember if yours was doing that or have any weird shifts or anything like that?
When I bought this car, an elderly lady had it and bought it brand new.
Right.
And the car is a beautiful car. I mean, it has the leather interior in it, and it's fully optional.
Nice,
It's a nice car. When I did have it, it drove perfect.
Okay.
Until I had this engine problem.
Yeah. Now, did you mention
as
that
far as
the
I remember
plenum
the
went
transmission?
Bad? Did you mention that the plenum went bad? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming it just
must
leaked
been
coolant.
Coolant inside there then.
Yeah.
Yes.
But what exactly happened to the engine? Is it just hydrolocked right now, or?
No, what it had was I had the car. I was going to race in Commerce and got stuck about 150 miles from here, 100 miles from here.
Okay.
And I had it towed back in, and I took it to another automotive mechanic, and they replaced the plume with a new version. I guess it's the metal version or the new gaskets or something.
I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that, but evidently that job didn't do well for you.
No, when I finally got the car back, it was okay for a little bit, and then you could hear that bottom. I guess it's one of the bearings in it go bad.
Lubrication in
sure
there. That normally wouldn't affect the or cause any extra heat. I'm glad you mentioned that though, because a lot of times the engine will go bad in a running hot stage, and it gets so hot sometimes it can let the transmission overheat it also, and cause some problems. Now, how many miles did you say was on this car, Joe?
This car, when I bought it, it's got about 91,000 on it.
Yeah. I still think it's a good candidate. It might not be a bad idea to flush the transmission.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, it was an elderly lady that had it, sat for a little while, and then you hopped in it and started driving it. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to flush that transmission, take a look at the condition of the fluid.
And I think I'm like John Ryan. I think it'll be worth you're trying to decide whether to do the transmission at the same time as the engine, evidently.
Well, no, I'm trying to decide whether to put a motor in it.
Oh, okay.
I've got several prices on the engine. I just don't know. I'm going to wrap up close to $3,000 in the motor. I know that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to wrap $3,000. I didn't pay for $2,500 for the car, and it was. I bought it on the spot. And I drove it 4 or 5 months.
You're like us. You hate to see one go when it's in such good condition and stuff like that. So if it's a vehicle that suits your needs, and you enjoy driving it, and it's still in the condition that you are happy with, I say go for it.
Yeah, but Joe, that's one of those kind that you really want to get all your paperwork on what each thing costs. Sit in a room, quiet by yourself, nice and dark, and make a decision.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now. But
I've
read up on this transmission. It seems like this transmission was a pretty good transmission overall.
It is. It was in
chances
just about
are your
everything.
Transmission will be okay. I believe you can take that out of the equation and say, well, the transmission will be a good risk. Is putting an engine in this car, will it do what I want it to do? And how long would I be driving?
You suggest, though, if I put the engine in, go and have a transmission flush also.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, you kind of made it a little bit easier for me talking to you guys and listening on Saturday morning, so that's good. I sure do appreciate the advice.
Absolutely. Let us know how the engine replacement goes.
I'll do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And, John Ryan, we are out of time. The time clock's on E. And we need to pull over for now, but we will be back on the road in no time. I'm Aaron Clements with co-host John Ryan Mooney, and our show producers are senior producer Dominic Frito, associate producer and editor Sandy Klein, and technical producer and engineer Zach Llewellyn. And we would all like to say thank you to all of you that tuned in, logged in, and especially those that called in to ride with us on the CNC Auto Show.